Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from number 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for a top 3 episode, please sure to drop us a note on Twitter at FocusFireChat and our Discord, or even email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com. And I mean that, like, we're starting to go a little bit low on our topic ideas. This week, though, we're going to discuss our top 3. Is it manga or manga? Because
Manga.
Manga? Okay. So
Justin's not here, so we're going to pronounce it right.
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
I was going to say, we don't have the Texan here today, so...
Well, you have one of them, but, you know, I tried really hard
you got
not
out.
to.
We
I wouldn't say
have
that.
The slightly uncultured Texan here.
I'm not going to continue this conversation.
I mean, he's not here to defend himself.
This
is
is not
becoming
very fair. He'll get a shot next week. He can interrupt the show again like he did the one week
with the hot dog rant.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, as far as like the topic this week, quick confession: I have never ever read one. I've never read a manga, and it's not because I haven't had opportunity to, because I worked at a Hastings and they have a pretty decent selection of them there. But I just have never picked one up.
Well,
so,
and to be fair, Green, that is actually, it's actually rare for people to, I said that backwards. It's more common for people to be aware of anime than manga. Manga is a really tough thing to get into. Like,
it can be.
I mean, like, if you don't have like a super easy manga to kind of introduce, or you have like people who are like really pushing a certain one, like, there's easier mediums to read than manga, and manga is for especially for those of us who are not in the eastern countries. Like, we're not used to reading the serial style of writing. So like manga are very commonly, they have like tons of, booklets or books or whatever you want to call them, because that's how they're written that way. They're written in a very artistic way, which means that they take up a single chapter will take much more pages than a normal comic book would. And so for people who aren't used to that, I mean, it is a really kind of an uphill struggle for a lot of people to get into manga.
Well, I can see that for sure. It's just something I've never been exposed to. I never had. I mean, we talked about a little bit when we talked about the animes, is like I have a very small circle of animes that I know. I think we were talking about it with Belle Bunny the other day. And I finally remembered the one that I was trying to remember for her, but I'm going to bring that up later. So because I don't actually have a top 3 for this one, I kind of put a call out to Twitterverse and asked for them to suggest top 3. So I'm just going to pick some at random that I recognize and say who said that that was one of their top 3s and use that as mine. Not super great way to do it, but at least it's giving me a little bit something to chat about. But I'm going to let the 2 that actually have read manga go first. So let's go Beard first. I don't think I've made you go first yet.
My first is actually going to be because of a culmination of things in a way. It comes back actually to one that I've mentioned on the show a couple of times before. And it is the dot hack liminality, I believe they called it originally, but it was also the Tales of Twilight or similar to. I can't remember because I got rid of said manga. But that being said, I absolutely loved the heck out of the entire arcs that they did with that. And dot hack, if you're not familiar, is basically sword art before sword art even was a thing. Sword Art Online kind of... I know that the history between them is kind of mixed because both of them came out about the same time. But I will say that overall, I definitely enjoyed Dot Hack a lot more than I did Sword Art. Only because it was like the difference between Sword Art, you had this crazy guy that's basically like sticking you inside of this... inside the game of basically his own choice, where you have others that are actually going into comas because of the game. And you actually find out that it's like related to code that is actually based inside of the game, and that code basically just goes nuts and causes people to basically lose any and all sense that they have. And what I've liked about it, though, as a whole, if you've never read it or even looked at anything with .hack, most of the characters are kind of reused in a little bit of way, but they do it in a way to like reintroduce that character in another fashion. The anime was kind of like a precursor, actually, to what the rest of the series was about. But the manga actually introduced the characters known as like Kite, actually, the original games introduced Kite, and then from there they had the manga, which was the Edge of Twilight manga, and then they reintroduced that same character in that manga. Then they took it into the game a little bit further, and they reintroduced the character again. But he actually bridges from like this villain character to a hero, and then back to a villain. But it's different people that play this character, and that's what actually makes it even more interesting. Is that it's the same character, but it's played by different people that are trapped within the game. Best way I can kind of describe it.
Cool. All right. Blue, convince me of what I should read. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is actually a tie. It's a tie between the Full Metal Alchemist and the Sayuke. Both are amazing in my opinion. Like Full Metal Alchemist is, if you've seen it now, full disclosure, I haven't seen Brotherhood. I hear that Brotherhood is much better than the original anime. The original anime for Full Metal was pretty good. The problem is that it didn't follow. Like there's a certain point, as most animes, there's a certain point at which the anime catches up with the manga, and then it has to keep going to be successful. And you often see a really strong divergence between the anime and the manga. Or either that, or you see a stagnation of the anime while they wait for the manga to catch up, which inevitably always kind of bites them in the butt. But the manga for Full Metal is really mature. Like it's very mature.
Yes.
The story is probably still in my mind, as far as manga, still one of my favorites, especially later in the arc. The ending's kind of odd, but I think that's more because they were kind of getting tired of it, and it's kind of a few other mangas you'll see that like there's a certain point at which the original storyline kind of ends, and they're like, well, they're still demanding us to give them stuff, so they just keep writing. But
Dragon Ball Z.
God, what's it? Bleach. Bleach was like, it was like you can tell when the original story ends. Like, and it's just like you should have stopped, but you didn't. But no, yeah. So that one good. Sayuke is, I cannot say highly enough. I mean, Sayuke was. The reason it's not higher in my list is because the others that are in there were actually my introduction to manga, but and so I have really fond memories of them. But Sayuke is a modern spin on the tale of the Monkey King, and it's just again very very mature, very and when I say mature, I mean it's very it deals a lot with. And I don't mean like adult mature like tentacles and stuff. I mean, it's mature because it tackles a lot of really actually difficult questions psychologically about like what it is to be a good person and what it is to, you know, how you handle different struggles and stuff like that. But definitely those are two definitely very strong runner-ups. If you haven't read any manga, in my mind, those are two of the best story arcs out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Sorry.
agree.
Black Flag Journey to the West is very. It's along the same lines. I think Netflix actually just came out with another spin on the Monkey King, which is it's a very popular mythology or myth. So you'll see
Dragon
a lot
Ball's
of them
based off of it as well. So
right. Yeah. With
point,
the what is it? The flying cloud or whatever.
Well,
you've got
Goku that basically is the Monkey King at that point. Yeah.
Well, that's where
like
the whole the big monkey, the like Goku's thing that was kind of a play off that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The oh my god, why can't Dragon Ball fan as I am, and I can't remember what the heck they called the.
I know that's what I was like. I'm like,
yeah.
But yeah, you said that. And I was like, oh yeah, that is right. That is where that was inspired. Yeah, so it's a very prevalent mythos.
Uzaru. Yes, that's the form.
Thanks, Black Flag.
Thank you, Black Flag.
Yes, thank you.
Speaking of Black Flag, I'm actually going to use his. He mentioned something in chat earlier as far as like my number 3, because I actually saw it in chat live tonight, and one of the people who commented in my Twitter question, his name's Insane Monkey, and he also said, if you want to read through a manga that has really, really great art, read through Berserk.
Yes.
I don't know anything about that one.
But fair warning, it's mature in all sense of the word. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just not, and I say that not meaning to demean at all. It is an amazing manga, but it is, just be ready. Just be ready. It is an adult story. It does not pull punches. It does not pull punches for any of the content that it puts forth.
I do really like books that have great art. So that would be something I'd for sure. If that is what it is known for, I would go after that.
That's the other thing, actually. That's a really good kind of thing I do kind of want to point out too. Manga's art style is so with comic books, you kind of have like a standard theme, if you will. Like they're like, really honestly, well, I mean, like for a lot of mainstream comics at least, there's a pretty standard like this is a comic book art. Like there's it's very pseudo realistic, right? Yeah. You don't get that with manga. Manga is very 100% much more like indie comics. Like they all have very strongly their own art style. So that's the other thing with Berserk. Its art style is very unique. Nice. So just also be warned there as well.
Okay. Beard, how about your number 2?
Number 2 would. This is kind of a tough one for me actually, because there's a couple different ones that are intermixed in the same realming. Like we've been saying a couple times here, a lot of times manga and anime don't really mix. And for me, as much as like some of my other anime would be like higher up there in terms of like what I would prefer, the manga is going to be completely different. So that being said, I would actually have to put. Oh God, now what was I going to say? It's wow. What in the world is wrong with me?
What's the storyline?
I cannot. It's you know what? Actually, no. I just thought of one that I'm really thinking of because I'm thinking of it. It's Hell something or other that I'm thinking
Hellsing?
of, but I want to say Hellsing.
Oh yeah, that's actually my number 2 as well.
You're gonna laugh at my number 1 then if that being the case, but yeah, Hellsing is like easily up there in terms of how anime titling would end up being, or manga would be. I find that the story in the manga is quite a bit better overall, but it's definitely like an acquired, a little bit more of an acquired taste, if you will.
The art style is 100% acquired. Like you have to give it time. Oh my gosh. Yep. And the thing about Hellsing is actually my number 2 as well. Because the thing with Hellsing's art style is that it's not even consistent within the manga. Like,
no, it's not.
I think that's always fun when they do that.
Oh no, and they do it very well. Like they are doing it for a purpose. There is a very big reason that they don't keep it consistent. Like the theme of the particular scene is very heavily like it's meant to be its own way of telling the story. But and what that translates into though is that sometimes the art is really actually difficult to tell what is going on. So there's actually moments within the manga where you're like, I'm not even sure I understand like what I'm looking at, especially as you get further into it and the characters like develop in both power and their own stories, because certain things are revealed about certain of the characters that are really crucial to their storylines. And it's another one of the ones that is a kind of a really, really cool blend between an adult, like they actually don't have a ton of when I say adult, I mean like there's not like a lot of the sexy stuff in Hell. I mean, there is a little bit of it, but Hellsing's much more about like psychological tension. There's a lot of
the storytelling aspects.
I'm trying to think of it. There's a lot of punches thrown at Eastern or at Western culture in Hellsing. And they give as good as they get, but it's a very unique story.
Okay.
But yes, do not Hellsing and Berserk both do not judge the manga by the anime. No, because both of them to be fair, both of them in and of themselves, their animes are good in their own right, but they don't. In Hellsing particularly, there is a very strong divergence. There's a point in Hellsing's anime at which point they reached the mangas, and they took it to a completely different direction that Hellsing went in the manga, and so their stories are night and day different. Like they are very strongly different. And the anime has a good story. The manga also has an excellent story. So yeah, don't judge Hellsing or Berserk by the animes. Again, both animes very good. Nothing like the manga though.
Okay. So my number 2 is going to come from a friend from over the sea, Drosty Blaze, and she mentioned one that I recognize, which is part of the reason I'm picking it. In college, I was telling you guys before the show, in college I had a buddy he was the one who introduced me to playing on PlayStation. We would play Star Wars Battlefront 2, and we would play the PvP in that, where you could turn into one of the Jedi or the Sith if you wanted to. And we played Capture the Flag a lot in that one. But anyway, afterwards, he would always stop us early so he could watch Inuyasha. And
I love it. That was rude of me. I apologize.
No, it's okay. He would just always we would be playing and enjoying ourselves, and then we'd have to stop and then watch Inuyasha, and I just kind of sat through it, and then we'd get back on and play more Battlefront 2 until curfew, because it was a combined dorm. But anyway, that one I recognize. I haven't read it. I do like the story that I kind of picked up on when I was watching it, sort of. Mm-hmm. Granted, I probably watched a fraction of the amount of episodes there actually are for it, but I thought it was interesting. And I actually had something to say, so that was good. Beard, number 1.
My number 1 is a bit of an older one. It's actually going to be Vampire Hunter D.
Yay!
It's another
that art
Vampire
style's amazing.
One. It's so good. It is so good. It reminds me of the Final Fantasy artist because it is as far as I remember, the same person retrained underneath him. Now I can't remember exactly.
I was about to say it's the same. It was the same.
It's the same
training.
Yeah, it is the same. And then I think it got handed off to somebody else who did the same similar art style, or tried to, and didn't work out quite as well because nobody can really mimic that art that well.
Right.
But that being said, the anime movies that they came out with are pretty good. But the manga is really where the stories kind of sit and last. One of the biggest things I will mention about it is that like a lot of the modern day Van Helsing tales we get are largely mimicked from Vampire Hunter D on a whole. Like they are very similar in how they're managed and put together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was very inspirational for those.
Yeah.
Is it just a darker art style, or
no? It's very Final Fantasy-ish. Like I'll be completely honest. It is one of the few manga/animes that I actually went out and purchased the art book because it is just, and I still have that book. Like I still have, and I'm very proud of that book. Like it is insanely, like it's just very unique. But it is very, very reminiscent of that old Final Fantasy-esque. I don't even know, ethereal, I guess would be the best word for it. I think is what kind of comes to mind. Like it's not super realistic. Like everything is very thin and very sleek. They all look like elves, if that makes any sense. The sword, like the weapons they use, the swords are all very rapier like. They're not very heavy. It's beautifully done. Like, and those movies actually are some of my favorite anime movies.
Oh, just still one of the best looking. I don't think like narratively. I don't. Think they were that great.
Great, no. Well, to be fair,
looking to watch.
I'm like, it is one of those movies that you'd really get distracted by how pretty it is, and you're just like, I don't even care what's going on. Like, this is just really cool.
Yep.
Nice.
As another side note, I would also say that there are some pretty adult themes that happen through it. At this point, I would say adult themes.
Isn't that kind of a? There's not. It's kind of a what is it? A kind of a staple? Not a staple.
It's sort of a thing when it comes to Eastern culture.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way.
They don't shy away from it as much. I think is the easiest way to kind of stay it. Is like they're not afraid to explore things that I think a lot of Western readers, or American readers, however you want to look at that. It's a cultural difference, right? It's just they view things differently. They are comfortable with different things. Their social norms are significantly different. But yeah, so like, but I mean, that being said, there are a lot of manga out there that aren't, adult, like Naruto.
Right.
Like, well, Naruto gets adult later in, but like there's a lot of younger reading mangas that are, that are not that. And so it's just, those are not the ones that I remember reading and I enjoyed reading, because when I was reading manga, and I'm assuming Beard is probably pretty similar. When I really got into reading manga was when I could buy it for myself, and so I was more interested in stories that actually had weight than just like the kid manga is like it's like comparing a cartoon that's meant for an adults to a cartoon that's meant for kids, right? Teen Titan Go. Teen Titans Go is not going to be the same as Teen Titans, right? I guess is the easiest thing. That's really how I kind of view it.
Nice. Well, okay. I'm going to say my number one is one that I would share with your wife. Like, your wife and I both have a fondness for it. And I'm sure this is not a surprise to you at all.
That being said, I know exactly which one you're going with.
Because it's the one that I have the most familiarity with, and that is Sailor Moon.
And to be fair, the manga is pretty decent.
Yay! That's
well.
Good news.
I guess. Let me reiterate. Some of the mangas, because they're as with the animes, there are a lot of variation on those.
Right. And there's also like weird adulty maybe I'm thinking more fan fiction, but there's some weird adulty things that happen in Sailor Moon too,
especially when you consider that they're all in high school, or barely in high school.
Sailor Jupiter is the best and always will be.
Well, anyway. I'm not going to get in this argument because I have no skin in this game at all.
I'm curious what her favorite is, just so we could debate it / talk about it. But I don't want you to go get her just to start that up.
That, and I don't even want to hazard a guess, because knowing me, I probably I think I know the answer to that, and I'm pretty confident that I know. Yeah, I think. But that being said, I can also see me being completely wrong about that. So Yes. Anyways, for me, my number one is actually very firmly, it's another older manga. It's actually one of, if not the first manga that I started reading. So this is like kind of was my gateway into manga was Trigun. Which is a very, very popular one. The anime was what actually made it super popular for people. And the anime, again, amazing anime, very well done. Not at all like the manga at all. Like the anime was much more of a fan service to the manga than anything. But like, oh gosh, that manga just. It was one of the first stories that I remember really sticking with me for a number of reasons. Mostly because it was a weirdly post-apocalyptic story, but it had a lot of really, really unique twists. Like the entire main character's backstory, like when you find out exactly what's going on with him, is just insane. Like that's the best way I can say it. Because if you have not read it, I do not want to spoil that for you, because it is one of the coolest things to kind of figure out about him. But I remember that being, again, just one of those stronger stories, like the finding out what's going on, the psychological tension between, the world that they're in, the world that's going on, and what they're trying to do, and all that. It's just, I don't know. But yeah, that's very strongly my number one.
Nice. Yay!
We did it.
We made it. We made it to another one.
And I blanked out hard for some reason tonight. What is wrong with my brain?
It is okay. There's been a lot of things that have developed in the last couple of days as far as our normal discussion.
That's fair. I'll go with that.
But that is okay. You ready for next week's topic?
Yup.
Yes.
I'm going to do something a little easier for deciding, because the last couple of weeks have been kind of challenging to decide. Let's do top 3 breakfast. So top 3 breakfasts, whether it's actual breakfast food or not, I actually have no skin in the game on that. I'm okay with you saying pizza or other random weird things. But we'll do another food one. And this one, Justin can't get mad at.
Yeah, this one's going to be a challenge because I don't eat breakfast. I eat breakfast food, though.
Right, which is totally fine. I would count that as well.
Acceptable.
Okay. Top 3 breakfast. If you want to send us your top 3 breakfasts, that is such a weird thing to have to say. Breakfasts. Breakfasts.
It's like
second breakfast.
It's like the debate we had the other day about what the plural for moose was.
Oh God, let's not start that one up. But
I want to.
If you'd like to tell us what your top 3 breakfast foods or breakfast meals or whatever. I have breakfast for dinner half the time. Whatever your favorite breakfast thing is. Make sure you hit me up on Twitter or hit us up in the Discord. And if you have an idea, make sure you shout it out to us at some point, because I am running out of ideas, guys, and I like this show. I get to talk a little bit in this show, and we get to talk about what we like. So let us know, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Mooses.
Mises.
Didn't we have to look this up here?